Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged and Star Self Astrology. I'm really looking forward to tonight because we're going to be talking about a subject that I keep skipping over after all these meetings. And I believe tonight's 314 episode. We're going to talk about primary directions. What the hell is that? Solar arc directions. It has many, many names. Let me explain to you what's going on, and I think you're going to really enjoy it because this is one thing that you can do rather effortlessly with your own chart, and you will find them intriguing. I'm going to explain to you from the ground up what they are. In the old days of astrology, they knew where the planets were up until Saturn, but they didn't have a lot of history where the chart's going to be next year, where they're going to be in 50 years, etc. So I believe that is the reason that they developed what's called secondary progressions. And a lot of astrologers look at your birth chart and they progress your chart, which means to look at the secondary progressions that are related to the birth chart. Now, I'm born the first day of 1952, so I've got an excellent example for you to show you how it works. Okay, here's the ephemeris. She's chasing something. Oh, she got a spider up there. Okay, here's the ephemeris from 1952. Okay, in a secondary progressions, which these things are really screwy, their names, because a secondary progression is the main progression when you hear astrologers talk about progressing a chart. And it is what it sounds like. The chart moves. You're born with a chart, and then the chart starts moving. Okay. There are many different types of movements. Well, one of the main ones is a secondary progression, where every day after your birth represents 1 year of life. Now, hold on. Okay, go back at this chart. All right. So when you have the chart of the first 31 days of January 1952, I'm born January 1st. So I've got a real excellent chart to represent progressions. So if I want to know where my progressed chart, my progressed planets are at the age of 10, I count down 10 days. So this 11 here, all across that 11th line, all across that, that's where the progressed planets progress to. So my progressed moon has gone to 12 degrees Cancer. My progressed Venus has moved from 28 of Scorpio. It's moved down to 10.5 degrees of Sagittarius, etc. Now, so all the astrologers had to know back then was where are the planets for your first 90 days? And that's good enough to progress your chart 90 years into the future. Well, I think that that's the reason that people still hang on to them and still overuse them. I find them to be accurate. There's no doubt. I've seen people do magic with them. I don't do much with them because I work so much with harmonics and with transits. Now, it's very confusing how these things are named. What you just saw is a secondary progression. It's the primary thing, it's the main one, but it's called a secondary progression, where each day represents a year of life. Then you could do it monthly. For every month that you live, it represents 1 year of life. Astrology is so powerful, it's so exquisite. You can even do it backwards and it works. This is unbelievable how harmonious it is. So what we're going to work with tonight is different. We're going to work with what's called primary directions, primary progressions. or solar arc directions. Now, what that means is very simple. When you are born, the sun moves either 58 minutes in one day, 59 minutes in one day, 60 minutes, which is a degree in one day, or 61. So everybody's sun moves 58, 59, 60, or 61. When you go back to your ephemeris when you were born, you sense the speed of your sun, and thus you have your primary arc, your direction, your solar arc. So in solar arcs, every planet moves forward 1 degree for every year of life. If you are matched up with 60 minutes. 60 minutes is the common one. Most people's sun moves 60 minutes. Most people's planets move 1 degree every year, which is related to the 60 minutes. Some people are 59, some people are 61, but we're not going to get into that now. So, when you want to know where your planets are, you get your chart on the screen. Let me get the chart on the screen of let's put Linda Sprague up here if you don't mind, Linda. Okay. In Linda's case, hi, Elke. Okay, in Linda's case, a solar arc, forget about what I showed you first. A solar arc, these 2 planets will run into each other at age 3 because they're 3 degrees apart. These 2 planets will run into each other at age 17. So you move every planet forward or backward, doesn't matter. Move it 1 degree or 61 minutes or 60 minutes. For our purposes, we're going to say 1 degree. 1 degree per year of life. So in me examining Linda's chart, her Pluto runs into her Jupiter, or going backward, her Jupiter runs into Pluto at age 17. And you can actually subtract the minutes and get them the month. These things are very, very accurate. These things are very, very accurate. Now, Mars runs into Pluto at age 5. You're looking for explosive combinations. Uranus ran into Mars at age 13. You simply move everything 1 degree per year of life. Now,
Can I ask you a question? When you're saying it's running into
when you progress it, it will conjunct
your natal.
I can't see you. Where are you?
Oh, I was eating, so I went
in your natal chart. If you're
natal chart.
Let me answer your question. In your natal chart, if your 2 planets are 10 degrees apart, then you progress it 10 degrees for age 10, 1 degree per year of life. That's simple. They go.
But then the other one progresses also 1 degree. So isn't it moving away from it?
You're already overcomplicating your question. Okay.
Or are you saying it runs into the natal?
In the natal chart, you move everything 1 degree per year of life. So if it's going to be 10 degrees away from the next planet, you move in your mind the one planet 10 degrees until it hits that next planet. Okay?
So it's going to hit the position that it was at in your natal chart, not in the progress chart, because they're all moving.
If you have a planet at 10 and another planet at 20, freeze everything, okay? Take one of the planets, you see a 10-degree difference, and move that one 10 degrees forward, and you will see that it will match up with the 20.
Okay, so you're saying it's that simple.
It's that simple.
Okay, thank you.
Huh?
Double checking that I understand what you mean by that.
and it goes backward. Okay? If you got a planet at 4 degrees and another one at 24, you got a 20-degree difference. Those two planets will combine their energy symbolically, or the planet progresses. It's kind of growing. Progressions have to do with growth and expanding. Now, let me tell you the story about Noel Teal. Okay. Noel, his name is Noeltyl. Noel Teal has passed away now. I believe he was Australian. Hold on. Okay. Noel Teal was an Australian famous opera singer. He was a Wagnerian opera singer. He was also one of the most famous astrologers ever. He was a Capricorn with a bunch of Leo in him. He was the master of progressions, the master of primary directions, the master of solar arc directions. That's what we're doing here. Solar arc directions. Solar arc means how much does the sun move in one solar arc? Just 1 degree. That's all it means. Okay. They're also called primary directions. Now Noel Teal wrote a great big fat book called Solar Arcs. I don't have it anymore, and I think I gave it away. But this book was extremely accurate. He's the real father of these things, the real master of these things. I do not think that Noel Teal was very impressive as an astrologer, like telling you about your life story, working out your details in your life story. I don't think he was that good there. But what he would do with his assistants, say Mark's coming to see me for a reading, I put Mark in the computer and I got the computer all programmed to give me a list. Age 5.5, these two planets hit. Age 19.5, these two planets hit. Age 20, these two planets hit. And I get a whole list of him astrologically printed out from the list of when this planet's going to run into that one. Now we're using squares, we're using oppositions, we're using conjunctions, we're using trines, we're using sextiles, semi-sextiles, semi-trines. I mean, just he uses every aspect you can think of, and he would end up with a whole chronological list of your life of what planet was running into what planet when. Now, you can already surmise that Mars running into Venus isn't that big of a deal. Jupiter running into Saturn isn't that big of a deal. But Uranus running into Pluto is. Uranus running into Mars is. So you're looking for explosive combinations. So he could literally sit, and his book's full of it. Once again, it's called Solar Arcs. He could sit down with you. Last Friday, you went here and you did that. 4 months ago, you went here with your brother and you did that. 16.5 years ago, you had some kind of a problem with your mother and her leg. I mean, he would just go right down the list. He was unbelievable. Now, if I could tell you something about your mother's leg, so what? What does that do for me giving you a reading? Which is why you've not heard the name Noel Teal a whole lot, except for in the category of solar arcs, which he was very good. And he just didn't happen to have the ability to read personally, interpersonally between people. Okay? But he would get this long list from when you were little till you're in your 80s of what planet was hitting what when. Now, of course, when planets hit by square, they're more intense than when two planets hit by trine. When two planets hit by conjunction, they're more intense than two planets hitting by sextile. So you're using all the aspects because everything's moving so slowly. Once again, all you do is look at the natal chart. Let me go back to Mark's chart, for example. In Mark's chart, what I would do if Mark came to see me, if I were turning the page and working on his solar arcs, I want to know what happened to him at age 3. This is a drowning aspect. Venus hitting Neptune. He would maybe come close to drowning or an accident in the bathtub or while
That's
or while
That's
swimming.
Linda's chart. Rick, it's Linda's chart.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, see, I get going too fast. And thank you for reminding me. Okay, here's Mark's chart. Thank you very much. Let me get it on your screen. Okay. Okay, so all you do, what you're looking for is the distance between two planets or angles. If I got a planet 5 degrees from the descendant, then I want to know what happened when the planet at 5 degrees away hit that descendant. What happened when the midheaven hit Venus? The midheaven's at 26, but that's age 1. What happened when the midheaven hit Mercury? So the line that represents your job combined with the line that represents your mind. And here we see at age 9, that the midheaven combined with Mercury. So you may have seen some kind of early job for the child, especially using their mind. Let's get more into something realistic. This midheaven is at 26 of Aries, and when you move it forward to 26 of Gemini, you're talking about 30. You're talking about 60, about 55 degrees. There's about 55 degrees from this midheaven to that Mars. So you want to know what happened when your job line hit Mars. And you may see that the person got a real boost to their job. And Mars being in Gemini, it could have been a boost in maybe 2 areas of their job. So you get the theory. The theory is that everything that's in front of you, and that's what's so fun about these, is you can move anything X amount of degrees till it hits the other. Now, I don't know why exactly, but what I do with them is this, and I've been very accurate with them, and I don't have any problem, and I've seen most people use these, is I work with the ones, back on Mark and not Linda, I work with the ones around the ascendant and around the nadir. These are the 2 really important ones in solar arcs. The ones near your ascendant. This is the point where life enters your body. The ascendant, you hear all about the ascendant. That's the point where life enters your body. So anything happening here by solar arc is a big deal. So if this Uranus were here at 15 degrees away from here, 15 degrees away instead of 1 degree, you could expect some kind of sudden, which is Uranian, sudden change to the body. Maybe even something sudden happen with your heart. It's hard to tell what. The other area is here. This is the area around the nadir. So this has to do with early life. This has to do with early life. This has to do with early life growing up in the family. This happens to be your early life period. So these 2 areas, for whatever reason, are the critical areas when you're looking at solar arcs. The ascendant and the nadir. Now, I've noticed them working all throughout. I've noticed them at the midheaven. You'll notice here that the Eris hits the midheaven at age 17. So at age 17, Mark shouldn't mind all of a sudden somebody comes into his life or an educational thing coming out of the 9th house at age 17 that's very Arisian. Maybe all of a sudden at age 17, he starts studying revolutionaries that just come out of nowhere, which is an Arisian theme. That's what's so fun. You take the 2 planets, you combine them at the age that you see, and you combine the meaning of one and the meaning of the other and start playing with it. And you'll just be shocked at what you'll see. Okay? So that's why I'm going to do all of you tonight, and hopefully I'll get the people straight. I just get so many buttons pushing and the cat screaming, and I get confused sometimes. Okay, so that's basically what a solar arc is. There are other types of progressions, tertiary progressions. You'll find other ones listed on the solar arc offerings. They all work on the same theory, but these are the main two. The primary, and these are called primaries. The solar arcs are called primary progressions or primary directives or solar arc directions. They're all the same thing. Then you got the secondary progressions, which are called progressions. So it's very confusing, but that's the two. Those are the two main ones. And you'll find that you take today's astrologer, what do you have to work with? You've got the birth chart, you've got the planets in the houses, you've got planets ruling the houses, you got one planet that's in one house that's so many houses away from that house. You don't have much else to work with, which is why I work with the harmonics, because they tell me so much. The number one thing people go to besides a natal chart is they go with the progressions. So if there are three things that a solar fire is set up to do, and main astrologers do, they do the natal chart, they progress the chart, which is your secondary progressions, and they look at where the transits are. Transits are nothing more than where are the planets at this moment compared to the natal chart. So most astrologers are dealing when they deal with you with your natal, your progress, and your transit. I go much further than that, and everybody has their own druthers. They have their own choice, their own things that work. Progressions work, they absolutely work. Directions work, there's no doubt. But progressions are a little harder to figure because they don't move at a speed of 1 degree per year. Yes.
Rick, when you said that it works backward, does that mean that something that happened within your family before you were born?
I don't have any I don't have any idea how it works. They just do, and it's not called backwards, it's called converse. In astrology, they call it converse. As to how that can happen, the only reason I could give you is time is an illusion, and time moving forward or backward is the same thing. But I don't want to get into that because I'm not a quantum physicist, and I don't have the answers for you. Okay? But keep in mind, they do.
Thank you.
For instance, you may have Saturn hitting Mars, and by going forward, and you're thinking something came along and stops your action. Maybe your dad came along during that year and stopped you from being in the Boy Scouts or something. Or you do it backward, where the Mars came by and hit the Saturn, and then you get a translation that makes much more sense. So that's all you need to do here. You don't even need. If I were you, I just wanted you to know this. I would just forget about the backward part. Forget about it. It's complex enough. I just wanted you to know that it does work. Now, most astrologers are going to really be hung up on natal chart, progressions, transits. I had a lady in Pittsburgh that had a very famous astrology bookstore for many years, and she really was the heart of Pittsburgh, getting all of us young astrologers with books and suggestions. She was an Aquarian, and her bookstore was called the Sign of Aquarius Bookstore, and she, of course, was an Aquarian. Very, very brilliant. And she told me one day in my early days that transits to the natal chart mean nothing. That the only thing that means something is when a progression is moving, and a progression's when a progression's just about ready to hit something, then a transit goes over. That's what matters. And I said, no. Now, I don't know what you're doing, Linda, but a lot of the old school believes that. And I just showed her transits hitting the natal, transits hitting the natal, transits hitting the natal, over and over and over and over, and evidence. And she said, no, it doesn't work. So I said, what am I going to say to you? Okay, you got your method, I got mine. I've got tons of evidence of transits hitting the natal chart, things happening. Tons of it. I'm sure most of you do too. Now, when a progression hits the natal chart, yes, and when a progression gets in the area of hitting something and a transit comes over and hits it, they all work. They all work. But this takes a bit advanced astrology to be able to mix all this stuff up. So we're going to go into all your charts just to show you examples how this works. You got the basis now. A directive, which is a primary progression, a solar arc, they're the same thing. They work by, they move you move everything in the chart 1 degree per year of life. Now, you'll notice that if you move the whole chart 1 degree, because you're 1 year old, every planet stays in the same aspect to every other planet. And if you move it 10 degrees, they're all still exactly the same distance from each other. But now they're going over the midheaven at different times. Now they're going over the nadir at different times. And all these things mean something. Okay, now, what I use 2 other things, just to let you know who I am. I don't use progressions hardly ever. I do look at them. I do use some solar arcs. I do a tremendous amount of harmonics because that's just what I've gotten into. And the next thing I use a lot is I use your birthday chart. I use your solar arc chart. So when your birthday happens, I do a chart for that birthday and that chart at the city you're living in at that time. And that chart will represent your year ahead from birthday to birthday. And they're really accurate. Matter of fact, it's the most accurate thing I've ever seen. Solar arcs. Okay. So if yes, Linda, go ahead. You are muted.
Is that the same as solar return or it's not,
Solar return.
it's
Yes.
not the same?
Yes.
Is it the same? That's what I'm thinking you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I find
yes.
it the case too. I find that
Yes.
the case too.
And that's very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Where I'm getting
get
off on is, say I'm dealing with Mark and he comes to me and I'm having a tough time getting started. Sometimes it's not easy to get the reading started somewhere. I'll go right to the solar arc and I'll see, boy, like I had one yesterday, 5 planets in the 3rd house.
Hmm.
And I told her, I'm not sure what you're doing, but why is it next year you're putting all your energy into improving your mind?
Right.
She said,
Yeah.
how'd you know that? How'd you know that? That's what I'm doing, reading all these books about it. How do I know that? I know that because you think your thoughts are your thoughts, but they're not. They're really astrologically symbolized. So a lot of times I can get a head start. I can get a jump start on that client. I can say, well, I can see you're in a mental year. What's been dissatisfactory for you mentally? What's caused it? Where did it come from, etc. So sometimes the solar arcs can give me a big hint. But I'm sorry to use the wrong word. The solar return. Solar return. Again, that's the chart of when the sun returns.
Right.
Your
I
birthday.
agree. Yes.
Sun comes back. It doesn't come back by the calendar. It comes back by the lineup with the stars.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, for example, let's take Mark's chart. We're picking on Mark heavy because he hasn't been around. Okay. Now, Mark recently had a birthday in April. Okay, he's born April 57. And if I want to do Mark's solar return, notice his sun is a 26.5 of Aries in 1957. I go to the computer and I pick solar return, and I pick, what city are you in?
Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse. Okay, and I pick his nearest one. It does last year or nearest or next. And I do the chart. Here it is. Now we see the chart. This is the chart of his recent birthday. Exactly. In the city that he was when he experienced the birthday. This chart will accurately describe his next year. No doubt about it. And you can see the Mark's putting a lot of energy where the sun is of primary importance because it's a solar arc. You see the sun is in the 9th house and it's next to Aries. So he's going forward, Aries, with Eris. He ain't fooling around. Now, maybe his political entity fell apart, but he ain't falling apart astrologically, intellectually, philosophically. He's got 2 gas pedals down, maybe 5 when you put them all next to Eris. So he's what I think is going on is he's gone around the tree one way, hasn't worked. Now he's going to try going around the tree the other way. That's what's going to happen. Because he has to reshape his philosophy, his direction of his philosophy. What's at the top of the chart next year? Brilliance. Mercury plus Uranus. Brilliant study, heavy mental study. What's he doing emotionally next year? It's in Pisces, moon and Saturn, but he's going to be a very emotionally disciplined next year. He's going to say, in order to pull off all of this advancement that I want to do mentally, philosophically, I've got to become more disciplined emotionally. These charts are really accurate. I mean, really. Okay, to me, it's the most accurate thing in all of astrology. To me, it's more accurate than even the birth chart. What is that again? That's a birthday chart. Calculating a chart for the moment that the sun comes back on one of your birthdays. Freeze frame, Polaroid picture, that chart represents that year that's born. It's a birth. Your birthday is a birth of the next year. And I'm not going to be corny with you, but that's one reason that your birthday feels so special. Because it is like an imprint. All right. Now, let's go with Mark's chart. And I'm not going to dig real deep in everybody's chart because doing solar arcs can take forever. And I would like, during this type of thing, I would like to do all of you this evening. So do you mind, Mark? Okay. Go ahead and unmute yourself, sir. Now let's get, who do I have here? I have somebody with Sean. Hello there, person.
Hello,
What's your
Hi.
name?
I'm Nicole.
Hello, Nicole. Welcome aboard. It's nice
Thank
to
you.
have you.
Thank you.
Mark, let's get going. Just sit back and hopefully it'll sink in for you. All right, Mark. Okay. Now we're not looking at Mark's solar arcs. We're going to go look at Mark's. It tells you what it is here on the screen. We're going to go look. It says Mark's return chart. We don't want that. We throw that away. We're going to look at Mark's natal chart. Okay. So now it comes up on my screen, but I have to use my monitor to make sure I see what you see. And now we're going to get underway. Okay. Here's Mark's natal chart. The first thing I'm concerned with is anything happening near the ascendant, anything happening near the nadir. Yes and yes. You got Uranus 1 degree apart, age 1. Sometimes these things are in months. And you got Neptune here. Now, I'm going to tell you directly with a great confidence now, with Neptune near that angle, this is 5 degrees away. There's a very good chance that Mark had a drowning experience when he was 5 years of age. because Neptune, it just drowns you with water. And it's very common when a solar arc hits Neptune that the person swallowed water or somebody had to grab them out of the pool, whatever. Did you have anything like that, Mark?
I'm racking my memories.
Okay, that's all right. Don't kill yourself because don't worry about it because a lot of times people find out later, but it's all pre-programmed because what Neptune experiences are reminders and revitalizations of you getting back with your spiritual life. In other words, you came into this life, I'll stay asleep for 5 more years. And then after my 5th birthday, I want to re-wake up and I want to pursue my spiritual path once again. That's what the drowning symbolizes. Okay? Most of the time, 99% of the time, nobody's hurt, but sometimes they really are scary events that the child what it does makes you think about God when you're going to die. Oh my God, you're going to save me. Okay. So
Rick, can I ask you a question?
if it's related, yeah.
So could the drowning be like something related to an illness that will make it hard for you to breathe as a baby because you got hit
Yeah.
by something?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It could be something related to that, yes. But keep in mind what's really happening with Neptune at all times. Neptune has to do with you relating to your non-self, your bigger self, your unburdened self, your unbound self, your Christ self. So a lot of times when you see these kind of things, it has to do with just reawakening. In other words, when you're taking this life, you said, I can't resume my spiritual practices. They're too intense. So let me take 5 years off. And your spirit guide says, yes. So you guys decide to put Neptune 5 degrees away. Exactly how this works. Now you look up here, and here's Uranus, 1 degree away. There are a lot of experiences in solar arcs that the child doesn't remember, and I'll take the mother or father, and the mother will say, yeah, at age 1, he had this very threatening, off-the-wall, unusual Uranus thing happen to his leg or something, and it scared the hell out of it. Now, I don't know exactly why, but those are the ones you want to look at. Not the ones that are 1, 2 degrees away, but ones that are near the ascendant or near the nadir. Now, we see that midheaven is 26 and the sun is at 26. So I'm not even going to bother looking at that. So what I'm looking for are interesting ones, okay? For example, this Neptune hit the Mercury at age 14. See, if you move this Neptune 14 degrees over, even though it was retrograde, move it 14, it's now at 15. Now it's opposite 15. This is almost 16. So at age 15 and a half, around age 15, Mark had some amazing, powerful, confusing spiritual experience in his mind. Neptune hitting Mercury. And he's going to tell you, if he thinks about it, he's going to say, yeah, well, wow, I saw this thing. And what the hell was that? And so think back to that time, Mark.
Well, the memory that stands out is 15 and a half was probably when I started lucid dreaming.
Okay, very good. Perfect example. And this is not by chance. The lucid dreaming would not have started without this. They're one and the same. And what does that mean astrologically? It simply means that your mind was starting to open to unboundedness. And your mind is what kind of mind? Your mind is in Taurus. So that's about as far from unboundedness as you're going to get. Taurus is measuring stick out in the mud and building fences, and it's very down to earth. Has nothing to do with out of body experiences or lucid dreaming, etc. But we can see that at age 14 or 15 was the beginning of a lot of mental expansion. Okay, that's how we're getting an example of how these things work. Now look here. Now, I don't know what your mom and dad were like, but Moon and Saturn are very critical in a chart. These two are 4 and 14, 18 degrees apart. At age 18, Erica, the moon ran into Saturn or Saturn ran into the moon. I don't care what you call it. You can take the house involved, yes. But at age 18, we're seeing some kind of unpleasant, probably, clash between mom and dad. And it probably had to do with money. Saturn moon is about there's not enough money to put food on the table. It can be that. It can be dad having problems at work, supplying food for the family. You get the idea. So anything pop in your mind around age 18?
Slightly after age 18, I had a very unpleasant experience with my mother.
Okay, and you don't need to go into it, but one of the things that's very common with this is something happened where you had to grow up fast. And Aries don't want to grow up fast because Aries is the sign of the little kid and they want to have fun. But when Saturn gets involved, especially with the moon, something happened where, whoops, you're not going to get this playground anymore. We don't need to embarrass you or do family secrets. But you can see that that's why it happened. Okay. And you probably noticed this experience for about 2 months as it was approaching, as the moon was approaching that Saturn. These things are very accurate, as I was telling you. Well, thank you, Mark. You've been a good guinea pig. I'm going to move on just because I want to get to everybody, but I think you're getting the idea. Okay? Let's go up to Sean. You ready for me, Sean? All right. Now you're going to see a lot with Sean because Sean's born with 2 planets right by the ascendant. He's got the moon right by the descendant, and he's got Venus here. So these are critical. Okay. As a matter of fact, when I read for him last week or two, I told him that I really wanted to get into it because I knew the moon Saturn was so important. Now, what I want to see in this chart is the number one thing is when did the moon hit Saturn? And for you, it was so young, you were age 1. So I don't know what happened when you were 1. I guarantee you it happened, but I don't know what it was. So we're going to let that be. What else do I see? Look at this. Age 15. How many of you would like to have your Pluto run into your Saturn, both in Scorpio? Age 15. And I'll guarantee you this was sexual, this was relationship stuff, and this was like causing Sean to have to grow up real fast. And how do I deal with these relationships and contend with these issues? Does this make any sense, Sean? You'll need to unmute yourself. Everybody unmute you when I come to you, okay?
Okay. It's I can't really pinpoint exactly age 15 and
All right.
but I could feel in that category of time. Yes, I could see.
Okay, well, you give it some time to yourself when you're thinking. You got a notebook around and take a look, and you'll see that the nature of the experience is very much like expressing the keywords of Saturn and Pluto. Saturn and
Right.
Pluto meant it was not very friendly. It was kind of a heavy weight. It probably had something sexual to do. It could have been like your parents caught you reading a book you shouldn't have been reading. It could have been a lot of things. It could have been you hanging out with an uncle and you didn't want to hear this kind of stuff, and the uncle started talking about this stuff.
Okay.
It was very unpleasant for you. You got to really broaden your scope as you're looking at it. But when Saturn and Pluto are involved, it's usually you saw a part of life that you always thought was pretty safe, and you realize there's a part of life that's really dangerous. It could have even been a movie you're watching.
Yeah.
You
And
see
it has to do with as you said, intimacy, intercourse.
It could be intercourse, it could be something related, but Saturn and Pluto have to do with that promise that 2 people make together that they're going to never betray each other. If you guys
Okay.
want to, you guys want to really start working with Pluto, you want to start working with Pluto in Aquarius, you want to start working the rest of your life with the planet Pluto, replace it with the word betray.
Mhm.
Really?
Replace Pluto with the word betray. Whenever you deal with a Scorpio, whenever you deal with Plague, Linda Plague. See what a faux pas that was? She's a plague. Linda Sprague. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with Scorpios, it's all about inside. I will never betray God. That's what it's about. Inside, he had better never betray me. You would never betray me. That's what it's about. Firm, fixed water. I'm yours, Lord. What's the number one problem that these plague people have? Oh, I have to have a sense of humor. What's the number one problem that Scorpio people have in their experience in life? They get over dedicated.
Oh, obsessed, obsession.
You could call that obsessed. Yes, they get over dedicated. I said I'd be here with you forever through everything. Well, most people just can't handle that kind of pressure. You understand? So when you're thinking about a young Scorpio baby, when you're thinking about Pluto going into Aquarius, when you think about Plutonian things, when you think about the social structures we have, when you think about the officers that we have in the so-called Congress that's supposed to be causing progress, think about betrayal. Are they betraying us? Are they betraying each other? What's going on? And there's a whole lot of betrayal going all over the place. Yes. Okay. That's because I study. I do a lot of distilling with these signs. I cook them and cook them and cook them till there's not much left in that frying pan, till there's just the essence. And that's the essence of Scorpio. And it's all based upon I will never betray God, and I have complete faith he'll never betray me. That's why some of our greatest saints ever were Scorpio sun, because they just got that ability. They just got that ability. Heavy stuff. Okay, let's get back to Mr. Sean and ask for our forgiveness with Mrs. Plague.
Okay.
That was terrible. Actually, I kind of liked it. Okay. All right. Now, so Sean, since yours are so close, they're harder to do. We do see that your Saturn ran into Mars at age 8. This is very important. That's either daddy stopping you, or you trying to stop daddy, or you fighting with daddy. But usually Saturn is the father figure. But we see age 8 was a big deal for you. And this
Remember when I told you about the thing that happened with my father?
I
When
can't
I told you he moved out and he left me and my mother.
yeah.
Yeah, that's around the age when that
Oh,
happened.
there you go. There you go. And what that's telling you, forgive me for this, but what that's telling you, this is all pre-programmed. You
Yeah,
and your dad agreed to do this, him in that role at that time, for whatever reason, so you would learn a specific lesson. What Pluto, the good side of Mars Saturn, the good side of us is it teaches you stamina.
right.
God, you got to take another blow. You got to take another blow. I'm tough. That's what Saturn, Mars, the positive side is. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't pretend to know the dynamics of what happened with your dad, but you can see already how a solar arc comes into play. So one time I get in the middle of the reading and I'm stuck with Sean, and I may have a little delay. I may just peruse down there and see that and say, Sean, did anything happen to you and your dad when you're 8? And Sean will go, wow, how did you know that? So it can be a good tool to help you get unplugged, which is the name of this show. All right. All right. Let's get back to this. Now, we don't see much here we see a very pleasant sun running into Venus. We see H7, some very nice spiritual H7 or 8. This is wonderful. That even though daddy left, these things came together at age 8.
Things got better.
These are two wonderful spiritual planets. Yeah, as soon as dad left, your spiritual life opened up.
Yeah.
That's what that says. Okay, wonderful. Let's move on. Claudia is not with us. We're at Elke with us. Let's get into Elke's chart. Okay. Claudia is not, she had the flat tire tonight. Okay, Elke, you with us?
Yes, that's me.
Okay. Here's Elke. All right, now let's take a look at her nadir. We see this is 8 degrees away at age 7.5, at age 8, at age 8. Eris conjuncted the nadir. Put the two things together. You got this very powerful factor hitting her home. And she's a Cancer. So her home life's a big deal. So what happened that was very powerful around your home life at age 8?
My sister was born.
Is she a powerhouse?
Mm, yeah,
Okay, well, was her impact on you powerful?
yes.
Okay.
I loved her. I loved her to pieces. It was
Okay.
just a real gift.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Now you see these two non-normal planets running into each other. This is age 11 that Eris and Chiron ran together. I think for you, what that was, without a doubt, was the beginning of your medicinal work. Age 11, you got introduced to something medicinal, and you got a real bent towards that anyway. So give it some thought at age 11, see? Nothing around your ascendant. The midheaven is way over here because the Earth is tilted when you're up in Canada. Jupiter's not going to do much since it's at the point of a T-square. Let's take a look at something else that could be interesting. Let's take the Venus, which is your romanticizing when you're a teenager, etc., and it gets up to 14. So this is age 28. At age 28, your Venus runs into Pluto. Does that make any sense to you?
Hmm.
Saturn return time.
It went by really quickly. Like the Saturn return was almost non-eventful. I don't remember anything about it. It's
Okay,
really
all right.
weird. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what about age 26? Because it went over Uranus first before it went over Pluto.
That's when I got married.
Okay. Did you get married suddenly?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
that's very unusual. When a planet goes over Uranus, it's almost always so sudden. Okay, it just happens. But Venus went over Uranus before it went over Pluto at age 26. And take what Venus is, put it over Uranus. What happens to it? It becomes enlightened. You become sparky. You become alive. You are excited. Your eyes get wide open. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, you
Thank you.
see the idea. See, the reason I'm doing this is so you all can go home. You are home, and start moving one thing over the other, and you'll start to see the ages that thing happen. You can do it all with all your family too, and with the country, whatever. So let's get back into her chart. Let me see here. Okay, what am I doing? Okay. So back to your other chart, what you're going to look for, Elke, is you're going to look for angular planets. Also, you're going to look for volatile planets that are near each other. That's of interest. What could happen then? Okay, here you are walking along in college, Mars in the 9th house, and Mars gets in the 10th house, and you start working, and Mars gets into your 11th house, and your Mars, which is very sensitized towards being fair, is at 8 degrees. And all of a sudden, it goes over Neptune. Mars at 8 Libra goes over Neptune, which is 9, which is 39 degrees. So at age 39, your Mars runs over Neptune, and you probably got deceived. Age 39 is 39, 1984. 1984. So you probably were moving along through a career, whatever, and some kind of deception came up whenever Neptune gets involved. Does that make any sense?
That's actually when I came from Germany to Canada.
Okay.
I
Right.
just had enough and left.
Okay, well, that's good. Now, one of the things that happens when you go over Neptune is it's usually the birth of a brand new spiritual life. Was that true for you?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you have a feeling when you left there that you were leaving deception?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In other words, when you look closely at Mars, Neptune, it's people that don't have any faith in you. That's how you feel about it. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's true or false, but that's what it's about.
Yep.
Having faith in me. And what it is the beginning of a challenge of you to have faith in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let's look at your mind. Look at your mind, how interesting this is. Here's Mercury. These are high school years. Here's Mercury going over Uranus, 6 degree 12 and 6, age 18. So Mercury going over Uranus at age 18, you really came to life mentally. Mercury goes pow when it's Uranus. Introduced to computers, introduced to fabulous theories, your mind comes alert. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Okay. I want you all to get a piece of the action here to see how it works. All right. Erica, Sherika, turn your sound on, please. Okay, here's Erica. Now we're seeing some intriguing things here. Nothing near the nadir, but look right on the ascendant. There's 1 degree away. That's too close. Plus, it's too vague. You can't tell. But at 841, at age 11, that Neptune opposed that Mercury. That can be a very confusing time. It may have even been a time where they laid some spirituality on you or religion that you got confused about. We don't know, but at age 11, we see that your mind went through some spiritual awakening or else some spiritual confusion.
Well, like from the age of 10, I really felt like I really knew what was going on, and I was seeing like, the lies and deception out there of the grown-ups. And I also, at the age of 10, I became a big sister. And
What
it was
happened?
really
What
great.
happened to you? What happened to you mentally?
Mentally, I just really felt like I was a mini grown-up, not quite a grown-up. I wasn't, physically a grown-up, but I just felt like I wasn't a kid anymore.
Okay, that's not because of Mercury, Neptune. That's because of some of these other planets. But what you're saying doesn't make any sense when you use those two planets. Now let's
Well, a
take,
lot of people in the neighborhood, because my mom was pregnant during the winter time. So when I was pushing my brother around in a stroller, they thought it was my baby.
okay, all right. Well, let's keep looking
I
because
was
there's all kind of stuff.
10 years old.
Okay, now here you got a midheaven, which is at 9 degrees. And right now, by the way, Mars is sitting right here. Right now, see, Mars is 9:52, and my sun is at 10. So Mars is crossing your nadir right now. Let's take a look at when this Uranus progressed and hit the midheaven. 1 degree per year of life. So you get 11 more degrees of Gemini, and then 9, age 20. Around age 20, we see your job line, your career line, 19, 20, 21, around one of those years. You see some sudden opportunity. Usually when Uranus combines with a job, you get more elbow room to do your job. You get more limelight on you. You get more freedom. People give you more reign. Does that make any sense around age 20?
Well, it started at about like 19 because I left home and I left a very provincial atmosphere in Michigan and I moved to New York City to Greenwich Village.
Oh, there
You
you
know, and I
go.
became all
There,
part of that, the
there
bigger
you go.
world.
There is the Uranus transit that you did not find by Uranus transiting. You found it by solar arcs. Okay. You may not have even ever known that unless you had seen this. This is what caused that. And you'll notice that around the same time that this was hitting there, this was hitting there. So they both, one backward, one forward, they both hit the midheaven at the same time, which is why things can be super exciting or super confusing. Let's take a look at other things
It
here.
was very difficult because my parents did not approve of it at all. It was like horrible for them,
Well, it's very Uranian, sure.
very
And
scary for them.
age 21, you're coming into Uranus, square Uranus anyway. Let's see what happened to you spiritually when Neptune hit Jupiter. Okay, 8 degrees Scorpio, and another 16, 24. At age 24, this Neptune, is that right? Age 6, 12,
32,
12,
32
36,
plus
age
30.
36, age 36. Age 36, the Neptune combined with Jupiter, that would be a beginning of a brand new major spiritual thrust.
Well, I was doing a lot of, self-improvement work, things like the S training and
Very good.
Sterling Institute and all this kind of stuff, just trying to understand what the heck was going on.
Yeah, well, S training is perfectly in line with this. Okay, very good. Thank you, Erica. Let me see if
Thank you, Rick.
you are welcome. Okay, let's get on with John H. John H. Okay, so you've seen this over and over now, how I do it. Let's take a look at our Gemini with lots of Scorpio, John H. All right, now look at all this powerful amount of Gemini. Okay, what's near the ascendant? Pluto. Okay, so the first thing you have to ask without a doubt is what happened when Mars hit Pluto? This hits at 11 degrees plus 3, so age 14. Around 14, Mars ran into Pluto. And I will guarantee you that was sexual. When Mars Pluto combined, doesn't mean you had to do anything, but you read about it, you saw things about it, you grew up real fast in your mind sexually. Also, with Mars Pluto so close to the ascendant, this could have been somebody making an advance towards you as a child. This is nothing to play with Mars Pluto. This could have been somebody that got some stupid ideas, and it makes any sense to you?
It makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
When I was around that age, people told me I was very handsome, and girls were, a lot of girls wanted to get close to me, but that's also the age when I went to the seminary because I thought
That's
I
right.
wanted to be a priest.
Right. And also when you're 14, Saturn's opposite Saturn. So
Yeah.
that's the time to go to the seminary and shut all that off and let's get all that regulated.
That was a
So
very
that could have been a big deal that time. Yeah.
was a big deal.
Yeah, well, that's why. The Mars was hitting Pluto, which is saying go, 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 while Saturn was opposite Saturn, saying stop, stop, stop. Rules, rules, rules. So that's intriguing how that happened. Now, can you do these things? I just asked myself, can you do these things with 12 harmonics? My answer is probably. I've never done it, but I'll bet you can because the charts are just so amazing. Okay, let's find out what happened when Chiron exploded on Venus. This is Eris exploded itself on Venus in Aries. So this is almost 25. So it's H20. So H20, these two planets combined, and not only did they combine, which would have been relationship, but they were very public. See, this is a very public part of the chart. People see you, people hear about you. You can't hide this stuff. So H20, you had to come out into the limelight. That make any sense?
Absolutely. That's when I decided to leave the seminary and get into the world. And I shortly after that
Yeah.
got so
So we saw you going in and we saw you coming out.
Right.
So
Yeah, I had,
shows you how powerful solar arcs are.
this is amazing.
Oh, it is. Now let's look at when Pluto squared the moon. So move this 10 degrees, you get to 13, and it's square the moon. You got a Pluto in Scorpio at H10 squaring the moon, which is in Scorpio. So at H10, no non-Geminian, you had some really intense Scorpio emotions and Scorpio feelings. And what probably happened then is Gemini is not made for deep, deep feelings, but all that Scorpio is. So those two parts probably presented themselves to you on stage at the same time. H10.
I don't remember. I'll have to go and research.
Yeah, give it some thought.
Give it some thought.
Give it some thought. You see age 8, Uranus ran into Saturn. And you can go on forever with these. Look at this fascinating one. You want to fine tune and zoom in on Mercury anytime you have a Gemini, because that's their ruling planet. And we see Uranus here hitting Mercury at age 24. So at age 24, we see your mind just going boom on fire and this tremendous curiosity coming out of your brain. That's 1966.
I have an idea, but I'm not sure. I'll have to give it some thought.
All right, you get the idea.
I was going to get a PhD in philosophy. I was really going wild.
Okay, well, let's talk about that, and I'll show you another way you can skin this cat. All right, here's the ninth house of philosophy. What's the ruler of the ninth house? You look for what planet rules the sign on the cusp. Well, what planet rules Pisces, which is on the cusp, other than Neptune? So anytime something happens to this Neptune, all kinds of things happen to your spiritual, religious, philosophical research. Okay. Now let's take a look at the fact that right now, Neptune is at 26 and Neptune is at 27. So you're transiting Neptune is 1 degree away from having gone halfway around the circle. It's opposite itself. And this planet is the ruler of your 9th house. So what this tells me, you understand me? Neptune went halfway around the circle. It is the ruler of your 9th house. It rules that Mercury, which rules Gemini. So what's going on now is we're seeing, how do I say this? We're seeing that what I think is happening is this is the end of the road of John thinking. This is now the beginning of phase 2 in his life, where Neptune's going to take over. And when Neptune takes over, all you want to do is write poetry. You want to write songs. You want to go with the heart. You want to go with the muse. You see through the fact that mind can only do so much. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Very, very much.
That's why it's happening. And you got another year to go, which is really good because it gives you time to catch up to it.
Thank you.
You are welcome. We're going to do Marcia. Marcia Bud.
I'm here.
Okay, Marcia Bud. She is here. Let's get all these things here. Okay. Okay, here's Marcia, similar to my charts. Okay. Nothing real close to the ascendant. Nothing real close here. We see your Mercury here. One of the things that you'll see is a child that doesn't want to talk. They just don't want to. They can, they don't want to. And then you progress that ascendant, it hits that Mercury, and all of a sudden they start talking. It's very common. Astrology is just one big mess, isn't it? It's just a big mess. Marcia Bud, you're age 13. Look at you going out and having some fun. Mercury in Sag. This is you whoop-de-doing and putting the hands in the air and playing with the cheerleaders and just having a blast.
Oh, yeah. I went to see the Beatles at Shea Stadium
Oh my God.
at age 13.
Did you have any voice left?
Well, you couldn't hear them.
I know, that's what I heard.
Yeah, you couldn't hear them at all. Probably I didn't have a voice.
That's what I heard. They couldn't even hear themselves.
No, that was the first concert at Shea Stadium.
Oh my God.
It was amazing.
I hope you saved your ticket stub.
I have my ticket stub.
Oh man, that's
And someone told me last summer it's worth about $600.
hey, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at other things here. Because you can see if you move these things slowly, you can see how Noel Teal came up with a whole list. When is this planet semi-noval, semi-septile? I mean, he got a whole list of the exact dates that these things happen. And he had this phenomenal ability to walk down through them and tell you what happened. So he had so much experience, he could explain it very well. Okay, let's see what happened in age 7. I know you're a twin. Age 7, Saturn hit your Neptune. Same with me. What happened with 7 when Saturn hit your Neptune? That's like 2nd grade.
I remember life feeling pretty secure. things started to change after that, but
Did you start to feel like parental pressure was on you or religious dogma?
no religious dogma whatsoever.
Okay, good.
Uh,
You're very
maybe some parental things. 'Cause
okay.
they were coming.
You're very lucky. Age 30, Pluto hits the midheaven. 1981, Pluto hits the midheaven,
Mm,
30 degrees away.
mm.
See, I've taken my magic out of my bag now. Now, when I used to blow your minds and say these things happen at this age, you all sat back like, "Ooh, how do you do that?" That's exactly how you do it. You subtract the degrees. Age 30, Pluto hits the midheaven. Now, when Pluto hits your midheaven, either by transit or solar arc, it's you taking your stance in the world. You know, things bounce off of you, they don't bother you as much. You kind of get a stronger position. You're kind of tested in the world, how well you can do. When did you adopt?
Oh, I was 44.
You're 40.
No, that the age 30 thing, that was a theater experience.
It'd have to do with you being elevated.
I was in an elevated position, but I decided to leave it, that aspect of the theater.
Okay, was it more managerial?
Yes, it was managerial.
Yeah, that wasn't for you. Okay.
And it wasn't for me.
Okay. Well,
Even
that's
though
why.
I could do it, but I
Yeah,
decided
but
to.
you decided not to. Well, that's exactly why. And when Pluto hits the midheaven, it usually brings you very powerful people, and you have the chance to align with them and borrow some of their energy, or else get out. But usually, it's one way or the other.
Mhm,
Okay, that's very intriguing.
mhm.
Let's take a look at when Uranus hit the moon, or when the moon backed up and hit Uranus. So, if you take Uranus forward to the 5th degree, that's 18 plus 5, that's age 23. Age 23 is 74. It's when you and I met. And you're
Whitesburg.
out in Kentucky making movies of Appalachia.
It's Whitesburg.
Yeah. And unusual home,
Very.
Uranus moon, living some unusual home arrangement.
That's for sure. Yeah, it was very, very, we lived out in that creek,
Yeah, out in the
well,
country,
no electricity, no running water,
out in the sticks.
out in the sticks. Mhm.
Well, you can see how intriguing this is. Okay, let's see who else we've got. I know
Thank
we. Go ahead, dear.
Thank you.
You are welcome. I know we're down. I think we did Linda Jordan. No, Linda Platt. We'll do Linda, and then we'll end up with Mo. Okay. Linda P. Okay. Now let me stop for a minute. Let's just open this up for talk for a second. I don't want to just keep on pushing. We're going to get to these two charts. Is this making sense to you? Okay. Does it take some of the mystery out of this progressive stuff? And you can see how some of these things, and other ones are, wow. All I can tell you is play with them, write them down, keep checking your diary, keep checking your journals, see what happened, and start combining the flavors, the key words of each planet. Combine them and see if it makes sense. And a lot of times you'll see that it does. So it is intriguing. I don't do them because people come to me when they're at major turning points in their life. I do them now and then, but they come to me when they're in major turning points of life. And I'm monitoring which way they're going and what they're feeling. And I kind of know what they should be feeling, and usually they are. So I get very much involved in helping them launch securely with confidence. That's just who I am. Okay, let's go with a Linda P. Okay, Linda P. We see Pluto and Mars up near your midheaven. Look at this moon here. See, this is one reason that the birth time is so critical. Because if it's off by 4 minutes, this ascendant becomes 21 instead of 20. That's why the birth time's so critical. We see age 4, your ascendant conjuncting a moon in Scorpio. Now, I don't know what that was, Linda, but that could have been very intense. Now, one of the things I want to see here, without a doubt, and when you look at this chart, the critical point in this chart is right there. See that big black triangle pointing there? And I will guarantee every time a flea walk by this place, things happen. This is the critical, explosive, sensitive Uranus in Cancer at 13 degrees Cancer. Now, I'm glad I'm talking to you about that now because Uranus right now is at 10 degrees of Cancer. So you just got a warning. And Mars always hits a degree away. So in a couple days, Mars will be at 12. And you had better be very careful driving around slicing, cutting instruments, etc. Okay?
Sounds
Be very-
good.
Be very careful when Mars gets near there. Okay. By the way, everybody, I hate to tell you, but Mercury's going retrograde in a week. The damn thing's always going backward. Okay. So what do we want to know? I don't know about you, but I want to know when things hit that Uranus. That's a big deal. I would think that when Jupiter hit that, it must have been phenomenal. Because Jupiter just goes, boom, wow, let's just explode. Okay, let's take a look. 30 degrees is 8 Taurus, 8 Gemini, 8. Oh, that's 90 years of life. Too far, okay. Let's see when Uranus hit Pluto. 17 plus 20. 17 plus 20 is age 37. 1988. These two planets combined. Or Pluto coming back and hit that planet. 1988. What happened, Linda?
1988. That's the problem with being older. Like, I got 1988. Okay, now I have to think about this. Oh, I know what happened. Ha! I started the PhD program.
Oh, something minor like that. Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's about, it might have been 87, 88, but it was
yeah,
in
give
there.
it a year. Now, when you combine something like that, you can combine this way or that way. So if you're looking at a 9th house Pluto, this is the heavy potential of a PhD. And Uranus comes along and says, boom, why not? And then you would have felt like, how do I put this? You would have felt like you were in the glass and all of a sudden they dumped all the ice cubes in at the same time. Just it all started, wow, moving and
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you say this because last week my graduate mentor passed away. From my perspective, very suddenly he'd had cancer, but none of us knew. They kept it hush, and I've been thinking all week that that's exactly what it was like. I can remember sitting in that room and this just titanic figure in our field walked in, and I realized, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was
that's it. And
absolutely clear.
Those moments that you just described is exactly how progressions work. That's not how transits work.
I mean, I've been thinking about that, for the past 8 or 9 days because, trying to figure out why his death was such an impact on me. Because it wasn't like I saw him all the time, but
now I want to ask Linda a question from her experience. a lot of beginners will ask advanced astrologers, what's the difference between a transit and a progression? I'm gonna tell you my experience, and I think it'll agree with Linda's Sprague's. Transits are more everyday events and things happen. Progressions are, oh, I just grew a third arm. Where'd that come from? It's natural things that just kind of flow out of you and unfold. Does that make sense? What do you think?
I talk about transits as current events like you
Yeah.
do. And what we're looking for is whether those current events in the heavens are affecting your particular chart. The progressions are a lot more personal.
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
They're just real
Personal.
personal. It's more the personal unfolding and evolution of the person.
Yeah, you'll find it if you go to other astrologers that they're very heavily involved in progressions.
Mhm.
I'm not saying right or wrong. That's just their thing. It's not mine. Okay, thank you very much, Linda. I know you're rubbing your lips, and we could have really done a lot with that one. Let's get to patient Mo Misty, who's been waiting for us. Let me get your chart up here. I think I'm going to need to pause. Let's resume recording. Okay, Mo, here we go. Okay, final chart of the night. Nothing's real close to here. We do want to find out when the moon, because the 12th house is very cloudy. What happened when the moon came out of the clouds? What happened at age 9? Especially 0, 0. What happened at age 9? This would indicate follow, how do I say that? Personify these planets. You see your mother coming out of the clouds. You see a woman coming out of the clouds. That's specifically what this means, with no translation. Now that I give you the vision, mother coming out of the clouds, woman coming out of the clouds, femininity coming out of the clouds, but it coming out of the clouds at age 9. What happened then?
Nine, nothing traumatic. I don't remember nothing traumatic in nine.
It doesn't have to be trauma.
Oh, so that's what, fourth grade, third grade?
I just said woman, femininity, grandma, sister, feminine principle.
Yeah, she didn't like me.
What
The
happened? What happened at age 9 with her?
She did not like me. She was the principal and also my teacher.
What does that have to do with age 9?
That's when I was age 9.
So that was the age that you found out she didn't like you?
Yeah, my teacher, my principal.
She was the principal also?
Yes.
Well, that is terrible. Now you see why it was so heavy.
Yep.
Now, what I'm going to tell you to consider, you can do it or not, you need to consider the variable of femininity, the feminine issues that you have always had in your mind, how they came to peak at that time. And that,
yeah, there was a couple instances too. I was like groped by a guy, and also a man exposed himself at my aunt's up in Santa Rosa, and I was 9.
okay, well, that's very, very common, and I would want to study your past life chart to see what that means. But this is definitely a symbol of difficulty with femininity for somehow, some reason. Doesn't mean anybody's to blame, but it
No.
means there's an issue. And anytime that moon gets hit by something, that would be very significant. And you'll notice that just 2 years ago, Neptune was at 21 degrees of 21 degrees of Pisces squaring that. So about 2 years ago, as Neptune is, this is part of a T-square right here. about 2 years ago, this feminine issue or this issue of people not liking you could have gone through a major turning point.
Yeah, isn't that about what the time I started following you?
Yes, it is. And what I suspect, Mo, what I suspect with this is it means that at that time you stopped caring. You said, I don't care if you like me or not. I'm just going to be who I am, which sounds like my show.
Yeah, well, I started on the path and
Yeah.
I'm continuing. Like I said, then I wanted to be in the now, and I finally made it.
Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful message. And we would have to go into your 12th harmonic to dig deeper, but I think that's just fabulous. It's certainly a good way to end things. Now
Yeah,
we got the T squared of Mars Saturn, and I'm really worried about what happened when Mars hit this Pluto, what happened when Saturn hit this Pluto, and the Mars hits at 16 plus 10, 26, age 26. Age 26 is 1970, 72. 1972, the Mars hits Pluto. That was a dangerous year.
Oh yeah.
Very dangerous. You don't have to talk about it.
Oh no, it's amazing because that year many things transpired, and I finally well, let's see, it allowed me to start the journey back up in physical moving and relationship with my husband. I had 2 small children at that time. Everything was, yeah.
Your
That was
power,
big,
your power was tested. And that was the beginning of you re-owning your power. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for your patience.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to show you tonight how a progression works. The primary progressions are the same thing. They just move at a different speed that are much harder to track. But you saw how we just move things around. And you can move anything around you want in your chart. Move something till it's square to something. Move something till it's trine to something. Move things around, take notes and take your time and move around. Calculate the approximate dates. Look for the events and you'll start to see. So when somebody would come back from seeing Noel Keel, they'd have their whole life spread out in front of them. I mean, they really would. He was amazing. You may want to read his stuff. I don't know. But you saw the power of the solar arcs. Okay. Well, next week, I don't know what we'll do, but I'm going to give my throat a break for about a week. Sean, you have a good week. And everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Until
Rick.
next time.
I
Thank you
can't
very
believe you
much.
did it.
Huh?
I can't believe you did it. You read for everybody.
How did I actually do it? Okay.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you all got a little piece of it. Now you can go play.
Thank you.
Okay. Marcia Bud.
Have a great
Right.
week, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye-bye.
Bye.